All right, decoders, welcome back to the live stream. This is Decoding with Cody, along with Derek from Gematrinator85. Hello, Derek.
What up, everyone?
Let us know in the live stream chat if our sound's coming through. I think it is.
Testing one,
And
testing two, testing three.
and Coffee Girl, I'm sure she'll give us that thumbs up. She'll probably be the first one. She's already in here. Much love to you, Coffee Girl. Hello, Serverbot, Visionary Vet. Thank you for the thumbs up. Guess we're ready to roll. And if you guys caught the beginning of our stream the other night, this is a second attempt of this decode. Everything's good with my girlfriend now, so hopefully everything we get through this without any bad things happening. And but yeah, we started this same live stream a few nights ago, and we're here to try to run it back. And me and Derek had a lot of fun looking into this code with Alexander Ovechkin. And we're going to kind of give you guys an overview of what we think might happen with this riddle with this record breaking. And I know a lot of you guys probably are not even hockey fans, especially a lot of the women in the chat. They probably don't know anything about hockey, but we're just going to kind of keep it simple, and it's a simple riddle to understand. So hopefully you guys enjoy. And Derek, do you have anything to say before I jump in here?
Yeah, not really. I mean, you would never guess it by the number of hockey posts and videos I've done, but I played hockey for 3 years as a kid, so it's always been a sport I've liked. Problem for me is that we don't have a team in our area. Otherwise, I would definitely be an NHL fan, but yeah, not much going on for hockey here.
The closest team to you would be the
It's the
Wild?
Blackhawks, but I have big reserves about rooting for any Chicago team or anything going on down there, so
Yeah, understandable.
try to keep it local.
Yeah. Yeah, and for me, I grew up a hockey fan, but a huge hockey fan. Actually, the Red Wings are like a huge part of my life. And they're my first favorite team. Out of all the professional sports, the team I had first was the Red Wings. And it's just funny, just to add this in before we start. My favorite hockey team, which like I said, if anyone who knows me knows how important this team was to my whole childhood. And it's just crazy that, my name equals whoops, if I spell it right. Can't even spell my own name tonight. It's my full name, sorry. So yeah, my full name is a 3 out of 4 cipher match to my favorite team growing up. And of course, I never had ever known about anything about gematria at 7 years old. So just
Yeah,
a crazy
interestingly enough,
synchronicity.
I didn't like the Red Wings growing up. I was a Penguins fan, and Pittsburgh Penguins is 92, while my first name Derek is 92. So a little
Okay.
bit of alignment there too.
Yeah, and I think there was a few Stanley Cup finals with the Penguins and Red Wings, wasn't there? There was at least one. At least one I
Well,
remember.
yeah, more recently, I want to say like '08 or '09, the Penguins beat them. Penguins won a couple cups in the early 90s, which is why I jumped on board at first. And I always wore number 33 in hockey because I wanted to be half as good as Mario Lemieux, who wore number 66.
Yeah. Yeah, that's is that really why you said it at a younger age?
I said if I can be half as good as Lemieux, I'd be fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah, that was the only reason.
really. All right. Well, if I okay, and the thing with hockey with me, I never played hockey because there was no ice rink. So I'm kind of the opposite of you. I had a favorite team. Well, the
Oh,
Blue Jacket.
I didn't play ice hockey. We played roller hockey, man. This was the
Uh,
90s.
yeah. Well, my cousin played roller hockey. My cousin was a very good roller hockey goaltender,
Yeah.
and I just always wanted to play ice hockey because roller hockey to me just didn't seem as intriguing. So I just never picked it up like my cousin did. But ice hockey was always what I wanted to do. If I could redo my life, I would probably be born closer to an ice rink
Sure.
because at least to learn how to ice skate and at least play like just for fun, not to be a professional hockey player, but just to play for fun. So yeah, anyways, just to that introduction to hockey for those of you, um, that's pretty much the subject of this decode. So, and hockey is, you know, a very big sport in Russia. If you guys don't know, um, I would say it's probably the biggest sport in Russia, if I'm not mistaken. And we have this is just an introduction, but we have this hockey player who is named Alexander Ovechkin, also known as Alex Ovechkin. And he's known as the Great Eight. And he is on the precipice of breaking a record that many thought probably would be very hard to break. And that is the goals record, amount of NHL goals scored by Wayne Gretzky, who was the Great One. So both players known as the Great Eight, Great One. We'll get into that in a bit, but Alex Ovechkin is one of the greatest goal scorers in history, and probably will be by the time he's all said and done. And this article here I took before he's now only 3 goals away, guys. So this article is a bit old from a few days ago. He's now only 3 goals away from scoring his 895th goal to pass Gretzky. Okay. And most of you guys probably know who Gretzky is. Even if you guys are not huge hockey fans, most people know who that is. And Wayne Gretzky scored his final goal on March 29th, 1999. And now the Great Eight could surpass him in a few days here, sometime in the next couple of weeks. And I just want to start with this alignment because it's pretty interesting just how these two great players align. So we got the Great One who has the record right now, and we got the Great Eight who's tracing down the Great One. And well, it just seems to be like an interesting riddle here because the Great Eight and the Great One, 8 plus 1 is 9. And these two players, the Great Eight and the Great One, just happen to be born 9,000 days apart exactly, guys. Even number 9,000 days. So on top of that, the Great One, Wayne Gretzky, who currently holds the record, he wore the number 99. And 9 plus 9 is 18. So you get back to the 1 and 8 again. And 1 plus 8 is 9. So there you go back again with there's a huge riddle here with the 1, 8, and 9.
Sure.
So,
and another way to look at this too is that he's born 9,000 days after number 99, which gives us the upside down 666. And what we're going to look at is how Vladimir Putin had that number in his age for the Miracle on Ice in 1980.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Derek's got a huge 666 riddle connected to all this. But yeah, the upside down 666 would be like the 999. And it's almost like Ovechkin is fulfilling in a way that third 9 on Gretzky in a way.
Right.
But so I just wanted to overview this. This is kind of the game that me and Derek are looking at the most for this record-breaking performance to happen. And I highlighted the one game here. Of course, we might look into some other. I mean, there's a chance it could happen tonight or in the next couple games too. But we're going to focus kind of on April 17th because this kind of connects with the 666 mark of the beast, number of the beast riddle, and also because, as I'm going to show you, this Capitals Penguins is the last game of the season. And in fact, as I told Derek before the stream, I don't have this in here, but Gretzky's last game was, let me get it up here. Right. Gretzky played his final NHL game April 18th. So we're talking about a 1-day difference. So Gretzky played his last game April 18th, 1999 against the Penguins. And now you have the guy who's going to pass him playing his last game 1 day before that, the anniversary of that, against the same team. So it seems like it's pretty perfect to me.
Quick shout out to the chat in regards to this being a video about ice hockey is that obviously in America, ice has been in the news with all the deportations. And amazingly, we just now got an earthquake a couple hours ago in Iceland. How about that? 5.2 earthquake.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that might have something to do with this game then. Let's see. Let me just look that up. Iceland.
I think it probably does.
Iceland earthquake 5.2. Huh. And don't forget the people on the helicopter crash. And I don't know if we should mention that. I should definitely mention this. You guys remember the 48 and 19 plane that crashed? in the ice, in the snow, in Toronto. Toronto, a huge hockey city. But then there was that 48-19. And you guys checked out Rambo's video with me on our roundtable. He was perfectly called the Jets falling to 48-19, the other team in the NHL. And now it looks like the Washington Capitals tonight could become 48-19. 65 days after that crash against the Chicago Blackhawks, which equals 65. And we just had Val Kilmer die at 65. That riddle would be even more interesting if Val Kilmer was in the Batman movie after that, where you had the Iceman played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, but that was Clooney who ended up playing in that movie. But yeah, that would be interesting if Val Kilmer. I mean, that could connect still, actually, because Clooney would have been the next Batman. So maybe it's something to look into. But yeah, I got to give a big shout out to Derek for pointing this day out to me. I was looking at other days, and then Derek brought this day up. And this is kind of an overview to start on why we're looking at April 17th. April 17th being the 107th day of the year. And this is a great little riddle right here, Derek. And I didn't even catch this at first, but once I actually looked at the slide and understood it, I was like, wow. So you guys notice how in the capitals added cipher, the word capitals equals 107. And that's the name of the team that he plays for. And he could possibly break the record, or the last game of the season is on the 107th day of the year. And that's interesting because in the reverse caps and the caps mixed, he's trying to break the goals record, which has a 107 in both those ciphers. And this connects perfectly back to his home country of Russia, where his president, his leader, is born on 10/7, 107. And Wayne Gretzky, the guy he's trying to pass, was born on January 26, 1961, which has 107 date numerology. And if you go from the game on 17/4, the 107th day of the year, to Putin's next birthday on 10/7, it's 174 days. So, and in Russia, they write that date 174. So 174 days before 10/7 on 174.
Yeah.
So that's
the reason I looked at this game in the first place was because of the opponent being the Penguins. And back in 2003, Coach Herb Brooks worked for the Penguins as a scout. Herb Brooks was the coach of the U.S. hockey team in 1980 when they defeated the Russians in the Miracle on Ice.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first impetus to look at this.
Right.
And then I glanced at a couple numbers, and 107 was one of the first things that started to fall in place way too well.
Right. Yeah, that's the 107 is I just can't get over the Capitals equal 107 and he plays for the Capitals. It's just funny. In the capital cipher. That's just funny.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So let's see. And now real quick, so this last game, this 107th day of the year, will be against essentially Ovechkin, his arch rival. These two are tied. Their careers are tied. I believe they were drafted the same year. And they came into the league kind of together. And they've been two of the greatest players of all time. You got Sidney Crosby, who wears number 87. And then we have the great 8, who wears 8, of course. So you have 8, 7, 8. So you got all the 7 and 8s. And Ovechkin is tied to his rival, the Penguin star, number 87, who was born on 8/7/87. And this is an important number to Ovechkin because, well, let's tie it to the Capitals, because this is going to be going with the Washington Capitals, right, where Trump was just put into place. And that will be 87 days, this game on April 17th, after Trump took office.
And what's the value of Russia in ordinal?
Right. Yeah, that's what my next slide is.
Bingo.
And so this Russian ordinal thing really got me, though. So take a look at this, guys. Not only will he be playing his arch rival number 87, who was born on 8/7/87, 87 days after Trump took office, his name, Ovechkin, in English ordinal equals 87, like Russia, and he's from Russia. And I think this just solidifies it. If you take Russian ordinal gematria, so just like I took English ordinal, you take Ovechkin, you get equals 87. You take Russian ordinal Ovechkin, it equals 87. So that's pretty interesting. And I guess this is just a chance for me to experiment with Russian gematria.
Yeah, it's
But
legit. I remember when Russia invaded Ukraine, I included a bunch of it.
okay, yeah. Yeah, that's, I mean, I had never used it, not even once tried it actually. But when I typed in Ovechkin equal 87, I was like, okay, well, there you go. That's about perfect. And this is kind of where I'm thinking this riddle might be leading us a bit is this is what really kind of blew mine about this decode is not only is Ovechkin all about the 87 like Russia, in Russian, the word goal scorer, which is what Ovechkin is actually translated to bombardier. Like if you type in, try to translate the word goal scorer into Russian, you don't get goal scorer, you get bombardier, which just goes perfectly with what's going on right now with Russia. They're in a supposed war with Ukraine and lots of bombs being dropped, lots of war and bombs. And I just read this. It is often in Russian, the word, whatever you say that, bombardier is often used to mean goal scorer, especially in soccer or hockey. This comes from the idea that the goal scorer bombards the opposing net, much like a bombardier drops bombs in war. So, and look at this in the same cipher as Ovechkin, bombardier 87, like Russia, like Ovechkin. I mean, wow. So essentially, he is a bombardier. He's a goal scorer, and it seems to go perfect. And like I said, I just kind of wanted to like emphasize this riddle with him trying to pass Gretzky because I didn't even realize this didn't click for me until like way later in me putting the decode together. We have 107 in the chat, of course, always mirroring what I'm talking about in the video all the time. But so Ovechkin is closing in on Gretzky's record, right? Well, look at what Gretzky is. Gretzky is Ukrainian. So, and I didn't even put that together at first. Like the name Gretzky, I just didn't even think about that. But then once I thought about it, I was like, wow, Gretzky is tied to Ukraine. So now we have this Russian Ukraine thing in the guy who holds the record right now is, I mean, I'll just read it. It says Gretzky's ancestry is typically described as Belarusian, Ukrainian, or Polish. But here at the end, they kind of talk more about the Ukraine. At home, the only Slavic language spoken in the Gretzky family was Ukrainian, of which Walter was the fluent speaker from birth. So his dad, Gretzky, who Ovechkin is trying to pass, was fluent in Ukrainian and the Gretzky family were Russian Empire landowners. So and look at the birthday of Walter Gretzky. It's one day after Putin's birthday, October 8th. Walter Gretzky, October 7th for Putin.
I like that his name is Walter, and he's born on 10/8, like Berlin Wall is 108 as well, a riddle we've discussed in the past.
Right. I think that goes back to that somehow, because there's definitely like a communism thing here, like with the Soviet Union and the Berlin Wall, and yeah. So I think the Walter thing also was interesting. I can't remember the gematria of his name. I don't know if I even looked, but yeah, that's his dad, and I think his dad died actually. Oh, I did look to see. I should have looked to see how long this game today is after his dad's death. What's Gretzky's dad? But yeah, so
1,492 days. Columbus.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Huh. That is interesting. So not only is Walter Gretzky born one day after Putin, so think about Gretzky and Zelensky. You have that same sound. Zelensky, Gretzky. It has to have something to do with sky. If you think of sky when you see KY at the end of a word, and that could have something to do with Uranus, which I'm not, but Ukraine, Uranus, that starts with the U. I think there's a big Uranus stuff going on here because I think Uranus is getting ready to make a move into Gemini soon or something like that, along with the Neptune that just happened. But yeah, anyway, the other thing that connects Gretzky and um, Zelensky is they also are born one day apart. So his dad is born one day apart from Putin, and Gretzky himself is born one day apart from Zelensky. And that's 17 years apart essentially. And we're talking about the record possibly going down on the 17th day of the month. So that's just another interesting connection there. And then with the 17th being the day that we're looking at, we're going to go back to the Russian gematria again. And it's funny because when Zach Hubbard was on that stream a few weeks ago, the people were saying, "Well, why don't you do this in other languages if you do it in English?" That was one of their biggest things against the work. And well, here we go, guys. We're using Russian, and it seems to be aligning perfectly. So Volodymyr Zelensky in Russian equals 236, and that's the same value in English of the player who he'll be playing on the 17th in that final game, Sidney Crosby, 236. And this is in English ordinal and Russian ordinal, 236. And we'll talk more about the 236 because Derek will take more of that later too. And this is where I'm kind of going to probably start handing it off to you in a minute. But so considering this thing with the bomb, with Ovechkin being a goal scorer, and goal scorer translates to bombardier in Russian, I started thinking of the nuclear connection with bombs. And well, it seems to fit perfectly because look at the gematria of nuclear disaster. And that's 236, like the player who Ovechkin will be playing in the final game of this season, Sidney Patrick Crosby, and it's the same gematria of Zelensky in Russian. And when you think of a nuclear disaster, you think of Ukraine and you think of Chernobyl disaster, which just so happens to be that if you measure from the Chernobyl disaster to this last game of the year, it's 14,236 days, like nuclear disaster, and like Zelensky and Crosby.
I don't know if you want to show my screen real quick, but here we have Vladimir Putin. Speaking of nuclear disaster, Vladimir Putin was born 2,036 days after the start of the Cold War.
Why is it not working? Okay, here you go. Sorry.
So, the Cold War, the threatened nuclear disaster between the two superpowers, Putin born 2,036 days later. And this Miracle on Ice game, which we'll look at, this happened 12,306 days after Trump was born and 12,036 days after the Cold War started. And then April 17th is also 20,360 days after the moon landing. And Herb Brooks, the coach in the Miracle on Ice game, he has the same birthday as Neil Armstrong. And then, Los Angeles Kings, another 236. The team that Gretzky was on back when he broke the goals record.
Yeah, and that 236 just kept coming up, and I think that's a huge part of that last game. That's where it really also solidified that for me, that 236 coming up, especially in connection with Chernobyl. That was
that's
pretty
a tremendous addition to it.
And big shout out to my buddy Casey Golfing in the chat. He's the guy I often talk hockey about, so I know he's been wanting to watch this decode. And I don't know if he just got in here, bro, but definitely got some great stuff in here for you. I know you'll be interested in this because he was wondering what happened to our live stream a few nights ago. He texted me and said, "What happened to your live stream?" So let's see. And I guess you can let me see what else I have. I think you can segue into the Herb Brooks stuff from here. Yeah, because the other stuff I have will be like additions at the end, I think. I'll talk about the Mission Impossible thing at the end.
Sure. So, back in 1980, the U.S. shocks the world on their way to a gold medal in the Winter Olympics in Lake Placid, New York, by defeating the heavily favored Russians. And the Russians were probably like 6 or 7 goal favorites to beat the U.S. But Herb Brooks did an incredible job with the team, I guess, and they ended up toppling the Russian machine. And on the date of that game, Vladimir Putin was 9,999 days old, whereas Wayne Gretzky was 6,966 days old. And as mentioned earlier, number 99 is 9,000 days older than Alex Ovechkin. Coach Herb Brooks, who would later go on to be a scout for the Pittsburgh Penguins at the time of his death from a car accident in 2003. He was born during Brown Lunation 180, which matches Wayne Gretzky. And again, 18, the sum of both 6 plus 6 plus 6 and 9 plus 9. This game was also called the Miracle on Ice, and miracle equals both 180 and the 18th prime number. In fact, miracle on ice equals 107, which is the number we led this video off with. The Capitals and Penguins playing on the 107th day of the year. So this Herb Brooks character, again, dead in the year 2003 from a car accident on August 11th of that year. And at the time, a player personnel employee for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Well, look at how old Herb Brooks was when he died. 66 years and 6 days of age. This matches the reverse Sumerian value of penguins, 666. So here we have the number of the beast. And notice how Herb Brooks turned 2,220 weeks old, one day before the Miracle on Ice, which was on the date 2/22 of 1980. And in gematria, the word beast equals 222 and 198. So the date of this US-Russia hockey game all synced to 666, and then this guy dies at the age of 666. When you write out the beast, you get a 3-cipher match with his last name, Brooks. His full name also has that 80. And as far as his death on the 11th of August, or 11/8, this, I believe, accentuates his connection to the Great One, Wayne Gretzky's nickname, which equals 118. And of course, this is the same beast code that's synced to Vladimir Putin, whose full name matches 603 in ordinal and reverse. The name Vladimir and Putin, both matching beast and the beast. And if you think about it, this game, the Miracle on Ice, was in the year 80, and it was also 8 months and 8 days after Trump's birthday. Vladimir 88, Putin 80. So you mentioned earlier how this is synced to the inauguration of Trump in Washington, D.C., where the Capitals represent. And to me, this is another layer of that. Alex Ovechkin wearing the number 8. In fact, Wayne Gretzky has 88 birth numerology. And check out Ovechkin's age when Gretzky broke the record. 8 years, 188 days old. You also have to appreciate the number of days between Trump's and Putin's birthdays. We get the same 4 digits that you get when you write out 666. And from Inauguration Day to April 17th, it's 87 days, but it's also a span of 88 days.
I totally didn't even think about that Mercury your connection to. That's one Mercury after Trump took office. So,
yep. And then Trump and Beast, 88, 47. And this game is 88 days before Trump became president, 47. Putin, the other president, representing Russia. The game would also be 255 days after Herb Brooks's birthday. And Miracle on Ice is 255 Latin, Miracle 255 caps, and even The Beast 255 in primes. And I thought, why not measure between the birthdays of Herb Brooks and Vladimir Putin? And here we get the same numbers we find in Donald Trump. But just like you mentioned, this is one Mercury year after Trump took office. And Trump's entire life appears to be scripted around Mercury and his mercurial birthdays. The most recent examples being the St. Patrick's Day snakes on a plane riddle that you covered so brilliantly. And then on his mercurial birthday before that, we had a plane crash on Jake Gyllenhaal's birthday at the home of a Buffalo Bills player. So again, here we see another Mercury alignment to Trump's second term starting. And this is all one mercurial year after that date. In fact, Vladimir Putin was born exactly 63 mercurial years after Herb Brooks. Their birthdays are also 63 days apart. And a number of Wayne Gretzky and Penguins.
Hey Derek, can I take over in just a second? I got something I gotta show you. This is funny.
Absolutely. I just want to share that Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player, has the same gematria as hockey player. So that one is just a really fun one for me. But yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, this is just to go with this whole thing, how we're talking about the Penguins, guys. Just wait till I show you this. Look at this article that they're writing. So they just wrote this article, I think yesterday or today. Trump's trade war targets an island full of penguins, but Russia faces no new tariffs.
Come on. Come on.
Oh my gosh,
Come
man.
on.
We're talking the whole stream about penguins, and I just happened to type in Trump and penguins, and this article comes up, just written, man. Trump's trade war targets an island full of penguins. Oh man.
Dude, that is comedy right there.
Yeah, oh my gosh. I had to share that. That is so funny. And let's not overlook the fact that this Batman thing that just happened with Val Kilmer, one of Batman's villains is the Penguin. So
indeed.
But it's just so funny that they just wrote this article about the Penguins. And if you guys just got here, me and Derek have been talking about how the Penguins and the Russian could break the record against the Penguins, or at the very least, his last game is against the Penguins this year. And, now you have this article featuring Russia and Penguins. So perfect. But I'll let you continue, but that just had to be added, I thought.
No, that was an extremely worthwhile addition. Right. So we've established that the number of the beast is at play here. I think unquestionably with all these 666.
Wait, does it Penguins equal 666 too?
Yes, Penguins 666.
Yeah, so there you go.
So one of those things where you just look at it and it's undeniable. So what happens when you write out number of the beast? Well, my friend, you get the exact numbers of the date of this game. The 17th of April, 17/4, like number of the beast. And that date leaves 258 days in the year, which is the reverse value. And this year, April 17th has numerology of 66. That's the reduction value of number of the beast. So it's a 3 out of 4 match with the date. Trump's sidereal age also connects to beast for this game, 154. But what I thought was really cool is that when you write out the number 99, the one on Gretzky's jersey for all 4 teams he played for, you get the same ordinal value as Alex Ovechkin, 129. Ovechkin in reverse, another 129. Also connected to the 666s. Well, speaking of Mercury, as we were before, April 17th is exactly 129 mercurial years after Wayne Gretzky broke Gordie Howe's goals record. And Donald Trump was born on the same day as a total lunar eclipse, from Saros 129. And remember, he began his term exactly 666 months after the first manned moon landing, if you believe it. And this is a big number of the snake agency, NASA, who stamped the number 666 all over their fake moon landing. And we're talking about the moon landing because Herb Brooks was born on August 5th and then died in August. Well, the first man to step foot on the moon, Neil Armstrong, born on August 5th, would later die in August. So that's most of what I have until I get to the goalie of the Penguins. Do you have anything else you want to jump in with, Cody?
Yeah, I think you should definitely get to the goalie because that 895 with him is
Oh,
crazy.
yeah.
So
Yeah, so this will essentially bring us full circle, right?
Yep. And then I might, after you talk about that, I might also bring up the connection with today and the 895s with the gold stuff. And let's not overlook that the Penguins do wear kind of a gold color. So
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought to myself, okay, if Ovechkin is to break the record against the Penguins, and again, no guarantees here, but it's a possibility. Which goalie would he have to score the goal on? And it'll probably be Tristan Jarry playing that game for the Penguins. Penguins not in playoff contention, so I don't know if there's any real reason to rest their starter. Well, Tristan Jarry is the Penguins' replacement for Marc-Andre Fleury, the longtime Penguins goalie. And Marc-Andre Fleury has given up more goals to Alex Ovechkin than any goaltender in the league's history. I think it's like 22 goals or something like that. Division rivals, they play each other a lot. Well, Fleury is 294 days older than Ovechkin. And check out the birthday of the new Penguins goalie, the 29th of April, 29/4. And this number is connected to 666, which equals 294, just like 603 score in 6. And on the date of this game, Tristan Jarry will have Trump's birth year in his age, 10,946 days, reminding us of Trump born in 1946. Donald Trump and Tristan Jarry share 138 gematria with Gretzky and Donald. And if you look at Tristan Jarry's birthday, we find that he was born on the date of an annular solar eclipse that belonged to Saros 138. He was born 1 year and 38 days after Wayne Gretzky broke the goals record. And I blogged about Jarry back in 2023 because he accomplished the incredibly rare feat of scoring a goal as a goaltender. And that goal was scored 1 year, 138 days before April 17th. The Miracle on Ice also 138 days after Putin's birthday. So what an incredible alignment, right? I mean, the script is clear. Whether or not it happens, this must have been the intent. But what's also wild about Tristan Jarry's birthday is the brown lunation number that he was born on. Tristan Jarry was born during lunation 895. And that's the number of goals Ovechkin needs to break Wayne Gretzky's record.
I mean, this, I just have to say, this right here is what really sealed it for me. Like this cannot be. I mean, I don't know. If that doesn't happen, that would be a big shame because that's a perfect alignment right there.
It would be an incredible wasted opportunity, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because 895 is the value of the hockey coach, Herb Brooks, in Trigonal. And Herb Brooks was portrayed in a film that was released shortly after his death. And the man who played Herb Brooks was Kurt Russell. And check out the gematria of Kurt Russell. So he equals 895. The guy he portrayed is 895. And then you have Ovechkin, who was born in 1985. And of course, no, that's not the same number, but this is a little switcheroo that I commonly discuss in my work, because 33, Ritual, Human Sacrifice, and Judas all equal 895, but Jesus equals 985. And 985 is, of course, the reverse of Donald Trump, 589.
And this is a big number I talk about on my channel. This is, you know, the whole riddles around the XRP community are tied to this 589 Donald Trump. And yeah, so this is a huge alignment with this number here, this 895, 589.
Right. So Jesus also equals 515. And if Ovechkin does break the record on Tristan Yari, well, these two guys were born 501 weeks, 5 days apart. Here's a big one too. This goaltender Tristan Yari, he has ordinal gematria of 173. And when Gretzky broke the goals record, he was exactly 1,730 weeks old. The game is 173 days before Putin's birthday. Gretzky's final goal was 173 days before Ovechkin's birthday. And Sidney Crosby, who could be his opponent that day, was born 173 days before Gretzky's birthday. So all of these characters connected with this 173 that's found in the goaltender.
That reminds me of the reverse, kind of the reverse of the day Trump got his ear wound too. So maybe something with that. I see that number a lot, 173. 40th prime could be connected to Mercury even, but.
So there's a few more connections with Crosby that we kind of already touched on. But I guess the last thing I wanted to talk about in my post was this whole concept of Neptune moving into Aries. Because on March 30th, Neptune crossed the line into Aries for the first time. And it's the first transit for the planet since 2012, I believe. And, with Neptune, the god of Neptune being symbolized by the trident, I thought certainly there's a connection to Ukraine, and I don't think I'm the first person to mention this. Ukraine's coat of arms has the trident of Neptune. So it seemed logical to me that the invasion of Ukraine could be connected to this transit. And when you run the date of the invasion to the transit, you get 1,130 days, or 3 years, 1 month, 1 week. And this is a combination of numbers we see commonly, especially when it comes to dishonesty, right? The number of dishonesty. Or is it for dishonesty, right? 113 and 311. And everything about this code, is all about the number 113. I'm not really in the mood to type all of these out, but you know how it is. The ultimate number of lies. And while there is a real element to the war, I don't think it's quite as large as they claim on the media. Like anything, everything's exaggerated. Wag the dog. You've all seen the movie. And if you haven't, definitely check it out. But this 311 is also part of the Beast Code. And Wayne Gretzky, Ukrainian name, he was 30 years, 11 months old exactly when the Cold War between the U.S. and Russia ended. He broke the record 3,110 days after Ovechkin was born. And then he scored his last goal when Tristan Yari was 3 years, 11 months old. The name Herb Brooks is 113 in the alphabetic order. Cold War is 113 in reverse. And this game falls 113 days after the anniversary of the end of the Cold War. It'll also be 1 year, 1 week, and 3 days after the Great American Eclipse. And the number 113 is one that's connected to the geometry of the moon, which equals 113. The Earth is approximately 11 thirds the size of the moon. And the diameter of the Earth is the exact number of days from the death of Herb Brooks to April 17th's game. I'll drop the mic there. Well, Cody's on mute, so I was supposed to drop the mic, and then he was supposed to come in and say, "Wow, that's great."
Oh
But
man, dude. I did say that. I was like, yeah, that's crazy, but I was talking to myself, guys. So, uh, but yeah, that is crazy. That is a mic drop moment. So, the diameter. I didn't know that was the diameter what they give us. So,
yes,
but yeah,
sir.
wow, huh. And yeah, I mean, like, yeah, just in general, the whole thing it seems to line up so perfectly. And
It's almost too perfect, man. I always tell people, be careful when you think about putting your money on stuff, because especially when we figure it out ahead of time, I guess. They like to switch things up. But I mean, come on, this is the script.
yeah, yeah. And so, we're not even done. I got some more here. So I'll see this. And what was I? I was going to say something else. Oh, I wanted to touch on the 895s in connection to today, because today is the game that really, if this happens, guys, remember, tomorrow you're definitely going to see videos from all kinds of decoders, probably Rambo, me, and probably Ball Don't Lie, and Sean maybe. But this alignment with the Capitals possibly going 48 and 19 to go and to connect with the flight 4819 that crashed upside down. Remember, we talked about this many times. A lot of you guys know what I'm talking about. For the new people, though, flight 4819 crashed, and Rambo from the Truth Codes has already gotten one right with the Jets going 4819. But now, are we going to get? I'm not promising this. I mean, maybe they're going to throw us for a loop, but I don't know. I just see it playing out. But if the Capitals lose tonight, they would be 48 and 19. And what makes this even more crazy that they would do it against the Blackhawks is because, remember, it was the Blackhawk. Let me just duplicate this real fast. It was the Blackhawk that collided with the Jet in Washington, D.C. And so this seems like the perfect riddle to go along with the plane crashes that happened in that time span, with the 4819 and the Blackhawk collision. And this game, you could get a 48-19 team, and you could get the Blackhawks, right? And what's even more interesting about this, the Chicago Blackhawks are very connected to this game because Chicago Blackhawks equals 65, and I forgot they had the 322. Yeah, so they not only do they have the skull and bones number, but they have the 65 here, and the 65 is exactly what you would expect it to be in this case, because if you go from the date of the Blackhawk collision on 1/29 to today's game on 4/4, it's 65 days, guys. I mean, wow. 65 days after the Blackhawk collision in DC, and the DC team can be 48-19, like the flight 48-19 flipped over, and Chicago Blackhawks equals 65, and this is 65 days after the Blackhawk collided. I mean, come on now. And we just had Val Kilmer die at the age of 65, almost kind of like another clue. And this could connect to the day the music died, which was about a plane crash. And me and Joseph covered this back when all the plane crashes were happening. The word music equals 65, okay? But check out if you go to Chaldean. Watch this. And we were just talking about Alexander Ovechkin. Well, Alexander Ovechkin equals 65. The day the music died, $65. And I totally forgot I'm the reverse of that in that cipher. But yeah, and there's another one I can't think of right now with that. But I think this is all tied to the day the music guy died. I think that's why the stocks are crashing today. I think it's a symbolic. Ritual human sacrifice 65 in that same cipher. What was the other one? The Catholic Church. There was. I got to go to my history. Oh, this was connected with the Final Reckoning, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, but also Heath Andrew Ledger, and we just talked about him as well. So we have all these 65s in this Chaldean cipher, and this is not the first time I've talked about this 65 in this cipher. I did a whole video like a year and a half ago about the number 65 in Chaldean tied to the day the music died, and that connects to Nicholas John Sirianni, who coaches the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia Eagles equals 65 in this same cipher as the coach. Yeah, so a big number in this cipher, and this is you guys know I like this cipher, but also connecting this to plane crashes and the day the music died. Look at that. The day the music died, 985. Wow. So this reflects what we were just talking about with Alexander Ovechkin. Here, let Derek put up his. Do you have that slide still up with all those 985s?
I can do that.
Just so people can see that this does connect to this plane crash, music dying riddle. I knew it. I totally forgot it equaled that too. And
don't forget the Kurt Russell connection. I know you're going to bring that up as well.
Yeah. But there you got Jesus equals 985, Judas 895, ritual human sacrifice 895, and the number 33 typed out equals 895. And again, I just showed you that the day the music died equals Jesus in the same cipher. So definitely very interesting. And considering, I forgot to even mention the important part, Alex Ovechkin is trying to break the record with 895 goals. Again, to go with all these 985s. So thanks for that, Derek.
But of course.
And the Final Reckoning equals 65 in the same cipher as the day the music died. And I'm going to get to the Final Reckoning here in a minute. But one last thing with the 895s. To today, when the Blackhawks and Washington Capitals play, and the Washington Capitals can go 48-19. So you guys remember how Val Kilmer just died on the April Fool's Day. So I started looking into, and I already talked about how that was tied to the gold, but you have this movie called Gold, which stars Matthew McConaughey. And let me just show you the measurement from the release of this movie. December 30th, 2016, which was one day before Val Kilmer's birthday, by the way. So if you go to that, December 30th, 2016 to today, it's 8 years and 95 days, guys. That is the exact number that Alexander Ovechkin needs to score to break the record. Also notice the 99 months. And who's the number of the guy he's trying to break? Oh, actually, if you add the day, it's the 666 kind of. So it's there's that there. If you don't add the day, it's 3017, which points me back to St. Patrick's Day in a way. But the big point is 895 since Gold was released. Okay, so that's one movie starring Matthew McConaughey that connects to Gold. But what if we go to his other Gold called Fool's Gold, which was another film that Matthew McConaughey starred in. So two films with the gold in it. And if you measure from this other movie, February 8th, 2008, to today again, you just happen to get exactly 895 weeks. So, both of Matthew McConaughey's gold movies, Fool's Gold and Gold, both align to today's date with the number 895, which is the exact number of goals that Alexander Ovechkin needs to be the record holder. And of course, we just tied this all to Herb Brooks and all the other stuff that we already mentioned. But this seems like to be an improbable alignment. And again, this ties back to what just happened the other day with April Fool's Day and the death of Val Kilmer. And one last thing, how does this all connect back to Herb Brooks that Derek just brought up? Well, and not only does this also connect to Donald Sutherland perfectly, who also is connected to this, but I'm not going to get into that here. Look at Matthew McConaughey. Now, and look at the name McConaughey, guys. Let me just type this out real fast. You have Mick Con Aw Hey. So you have a very interesting constructed word, in my opinion, because he was in 2 gold movies. He was in Fool's Gold and Gold. Look at his name. He has the MC, which is the Moonchild, like McDonald's. He has the con, like a con man, and he has the AU, which is gold. So a Moonchild gold con man is what I'm getting from this name. That's just an interesting point I'm bringing up here, but definitely interesting. And look at the movie Fool's Gold. He starred alongside Kate Hudson. Kate Hudson is the daughter of Goldie Hawn. And Goldie Hawn is the wife of Kurt Russell. And Kurt Russell is the one who equals 8. Kurt Russell is the one who equals 895 in the cipher that we were just talking about. And Kurt Russell is the one who played in the Miracle on Ice. So just how wild it is that somehow we connected 2 seemingly different riddles that mean, and somehow, and look, Goldie Hawn was born in Washington, D.C., where this whole riddle is going down.
You pointed out the movie Gold being released one day before Val Kilmer's birthday. That would have been Kilmer's 57th birthday. And when you write out both golden and golden ratio, they each equal 57.
Yep, exactly. And look how old she is right now. Guys, she's 79. That's the element gold on the periodic table. So, and Trump's been declaring this golden age, and her name is one letter off from Dawn, which reminds me of the dawn of a golden age, Goldie Dawn. It's just with the H, which is the 8th letter, by the way. Like Ovechkin is grade 8. So there's a lot here with this. But just the fact that somehow we got all the way back around from Matthew McConaughey's Fool's Gold connected to the daughter of Goldie Hawn, and then the wife of the guy who played in the Miracle on Ice, which connects back to Ovechkin and the Russians. And just so you guys know, Russia is one of the top producers of gold. I think it's the 3rd. There's like 3 countries in the world that are the top miners or producers of gold, and Russia is one of them.
Russia, Russell.
Yeah, Russia, Russell, yeah. So there's definitely something with this and this 895. Remember, it's 895 weeks exactly after Fool's Gold. And yeah, so just craziness. And look at this, 65 days. So you got this 65 connection again, which I just brought up in connection to the day the music died. And that all connects to today. And don't forget, we're in Lunation 1265 right now. Another 65, you could say, if you want to say it like that. When I say the number, I usually say 1265. I don't say 1265.
Is that that's the release date for Gold or Fool's Gold on the left, right?
Yes.
So Fool's Gold came out on the same day as an annular eclipse, which, the golden sun.
Yep.
And then it came out on a date with 38 numerology.
Gold, yeah.
Which is also gold. It's funny, it shows you February 8th as an eclipse on your calculator, but because of how I made it, It actually takes your time zone into account for the eclipses. So for
I
me, that
see.
eclipse actually was the 6th through the 7th. But
I
either way,
see.
it was right on the tail end of an eclipse.
Yeah. And notice it's got 38 and 20 date numerology. Look at the gematria of gold.
That's perfect. And then, yeah, 2 times 8 is 16. It came out on 2/8 of 2008.
Yeah. So yeah, that's just a riddle I wanted to bring up in connection to today's game between the Blackhawks. And if all this stuff goes down, guys, it's going to be crazy to talk about to bring all this together. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying Ovechkin will get 3 goals tonight to break the record on the same night that's the Washington Capitals fall to 48-19. That would be pretty improbable because that would mean the Capitals would have to lose like Ovechkin would probably have to score most of their goals, and it
Right.
would have to be a shootout, and the Blackhawks would have to still win. So it would be very rare to see all that, but we'll
Well,
see
but
what
if they
happens.
lose in a shootout, then they get a shootout loss, which means they would be 48, 18, and
Yeah.
10 instead of 48, 19, right?
Yeah. So technically, this 48-19 record, the only way this happens tonight is if they lose in regulation
Yeah,
and not in
exactly.
overtime. So, and it would make the Blackhawks 22-44. So that they would keep them on 44 losses on 4-4. So there's another pretty clear riddle that could happen on 44 losses on 4-4. And 22, which is half of 44. So that's just we'll see if it happens. And Rambo was right about the first one. So are they going to throw us for a loop again and not let us be right again? But we'll see. So Colin Jensen in the chat, he must be a hockey fan. He says Ovi not scoring. So yeah, that's what he says. Again, I don't decode hockey on a daily basis like some of you, so you guys probably know more about that than I do in that case. But
And
let's
having watched sports for so many years, I mean, how many times is someone chasing a record and then they get really close to the record and then either they get anxious or nervous, there's too much pressure and it just draws out, So that might happen here. I think there's 7 games left, right? So that's what he would need.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but I mean, the 17th date looks like the best date for me. If that doesn't come through, I'd be a bit shocked, but we will see.
Well, don't be too
And
shocked.
and so yeah, let's finish this with this undeniable riddles with these movies that are connected to this
Oh, I
because
love this one. This movie was awesome. I remember it as a kid.
I always remember this movie when it comes to hockey. And so look at this. There was actually a movie about a bombing. Again, let me go back to the slide that's very important to this. In Russian, the word goal scorer, which is what Ovechkin is, translates to bombardier, which equals Ovechkin, which equals Russia, and equals Russia in Russian gematria, 87. So we got this connection between Russia, they're bombing Ukraine a lot right now. A goal scorer like Ovechkin is a bombardier. So let's connect this game where he could break the record against the Penguins. And they just released an article saying that Trump's tariffs are hurting the Penguins, but not Russia. So he could break the record against the Penguins. Now there is a movie where there's a bombing at a Pittsburgh Penguins hockey game, guys. Darren McCord, a French Canadian born and firefighter from Pittsburgh, Bureau of Fire, now serving as fire marshal in Pittsburgh after being unable to save a young girl from a house fire 2 years prior during the 1995. Oh, wow. 1995, guys. We just had the death of Batman Forever actor Val Kilmer, who his movie was in 1995. But this movie takes place in 1995 Stanley Cup Finals with the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Chicago Blackhawks. So 2 teams we just talked about in this decode.
That's unreal.
And look at how many days it is from the release of this movie called Sudden Death. And there's a bombing at the Pittsburgh Steelers Stadium, and the bomber himself can break the record against the Penguins 10,710 days after this movie came out. And if you drop the zeros here, look at what you get, guys. You get the literal gematria of Alexander Ovechkin, the bomber, the bombardier. And this movie is about a bomb against the same team, guys. Like, that is ridiculous. And it lines up perfectly And it's that's funny thing is if you looked at this riddle and didn't know that Ovechkin was going to break the record, could possibly break the record that day, you might be like, oh man, there might be a bombing at the stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, it's really probably just about Ovechkin, the bomber, bombarding the net and getting his record. That's how this movie, The Bombing in Pittsburgh, connects. So this is just a wild connection right here. And now we got to go to a current movie that's about ready to release that is clearly tied to this record break. And remember, we just had Val Kilmer die, and he's connected to Tom Cruise. And how is he connected to Tom Cruise? Through a plane movie. We're just talking about plane crashes. Tom Cruise starred in the same movie with Val Kilmer, Top Gun. And Tom Cruise, his next movie is Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, guys. Look at the gematria of The Final Reckoning. It equals Alexander Ovechkin, the guy who's going to break the record. And look at the summary of this movie. Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning has a significant connection to Russia. The plot centers around Ethan Hunt's mission to locate the Entity, a rogue artificial intelligence hidden aboard the wreckage of a Russian submarine, Sevastopol, which sank under the Bering Sea ice caps. The ice caps, guys. The ice hockey team for Washington is the Caps. They call them the Caps. The Russian submarine sinks under, in this movie, The Final Reckoning, that's coming out on 5/23. And The Final Reckoning equals the star player who's going to break the record, possibly, of the Caps in almost all ciphers. Like, that's a perfect match, guys. That is not a coincidence when you see a 4 out of 4 cipher match like that. On top of that, this 2 and the 90 here is perfect because how many days were Ovechkin and Gretzky born apart? 9,000, exactly. And what does Ovechkin, and I told you, this is the great 8 chasing the great 1. Look at Alexander Ovechkin. He equals 81, the 8 and the 1. The great 8 is chasing the 1. It's just all perfect. Now let's talk about the 288. Or actually, before we get to that, this also connects to the release date of The Final Reckoning because Gretzky's number was 99, and The Final Reckoning is coming out on the 99th prime number day, 5/23. Right? The Final Reckoning for number 99. 5/23 is the 99th prime. And look how many days this game that we're talking about, guys, is going to be played after the birthday of Tom Cruise, who's in The Final Reckoning. 288 days. Like the gematria of Alexander Ovechkin and The Final Reckoning. This is undeniable. And yes, this does connect back to Hines Ward, guys. I see somebody in the chat talking about, I was talking about Hines Ward 3 weeks ago before we got the death of Val Kilmer. And Hines Ward was the guy in the movie from Pittsburgh in the Batman Forever, or the Batman, where he's in Bane and Bane's blowing up the stadium. And the one player that's running on the field in that time is Hines Ward. And the middle name of Hines Ward is Edward. And the middle name of Val Kilmer was Edward. So yeah, there's a huge connection with that. But how crazy it is, this game that we're talking about is 288 days after Tom Cruise's birthday. And this connects all the way back to what Joseph covered a lot a couple years ago. And I covered it too. I think maybe you even covered it too, Derek. But the release and the trade of the Russian arms dealer, and we're talking about the Russian bombardier Ovechkin, who has the same gematria as Victor, however you say that, as the full name of Victor Bout is 288, guys. Remember, he's the merchant of death, the Russian arms dealer whose name equals 288, like the Russian bombardier hockey player equals 288, like The Final Reckoning. And this guy was the guy that was released for Brittany Griner and traded. And he was
Griner of the Mercury as well.
Yeah, big Mercury connection here. Merchant of Death, merchant. And so not only is his name equal 288, like Ovechkin in The Final Reckoning, if you go to the day before the game we're talking about, which I believe they also play that day, the Capitals, It's actually 28 months and 8 days since he was traded. Oh, and there's a blank white screen. I thought I had another one.
Yeah, I
But
did a little work on Victor Bout because he went back to the USSR. I know it's Russia now, but he went back to the USSR on the same day that Lenin was assassinated, and Lenin has that song back in the USSR.
yeah.
And
Huh.
yeah, that was 42 years exactly after the assassination, and Brittany Griner wears number 42. Lenin was shot at exactly 40 years 2 months, and Griner went back to the United States exactly 42 weeks after she was arrested. Russia
Mhm.
equals 42. Arms Dealer, another 42. That Beatles song was from the White Album, 42. So that was a deep one. But I
Yeah,
love the
and
288 connection here.
yeah. And this is a number for some reason this 288 is the only thing I could ever think of with this number was this guy because it was the one number that I remember he had. And every time I ever saw this 288, I always thought of Victor Bout. And I always wondered how it was going to come up. And this is kind of like the final reckoning of that thought I had back then was like, I wonder how this 288 is going to come in. And then here you go, Alexander Ovechkin, 288, the final reckoning. So, and yeah, I do find it interesting. It's 28 months and 8 days after his release, right before that game. Um, and just to reiterate for the people just getting in here, Gretzky, the guy he's trying to pass, is connected to Ukraine, and I already connected it to this 236, which I think is a huge part of this. Chernobyl disaster to this game is 14,236 days. Nuclear disaster 236. The guy he'll be playing against, Sidney Crosby, his full name equals 236, and in Russian, Volodymyr Zelensky 236. And yeah, and then I did add this in here, but Derek made a bunch of crazy connections with the 236 in that day and Trump and all these other things. So definitely crazy stuff. I think is there anything? I felt like I thought I had one more slide if there's something I missed, but I guess that's it. Yeah, I guess that's it. But um, so let me go to the chat. I think my chat's always booming with some great stuff. So let me see what they're saying here real fast. Do you have anything else to add, Derek?
Not to this story. No, I've been streaming for almost 3 hours now, including my video from earlier. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You can jump off whenever you want if you're done. I mean, I might stay on a bit longer and converse with the chat, maybe another 20 minutes, but that's up to you if you want to stay on.
I'll hang out for a little bit.
Okay. I don't know if I'll even go 20 minutes, probably just maybe another 5 or so. Because then I got to get to bed soon as well. Anyway, so the chat is saying, I always wanted to get the Sean's connection here. The grade 8 equals 271. Ovechkin is exactly 271 months. Wait, what is the MI? Maybe it was a typo. 271 MI, that before Michael Jordan. I'm assuming you're saying 271 months. Yeah, months, yeah. Okay, yeah. And I think you shared that earlier. Was that you? Yeah, that was Widow's Son who shared that with me. So make sure you guys go subscribe to Widow's Son. They've been doing some great work over there, him and Ball Don't Lie. So make sure you guys go check out him out. And thanks to all of you who are in the chat. Make sure you guys hit the like button if you'd like. We really appreciate that. I know this isn't the most popular decode. I don't think hockey's the most popular topic, but me and Derek definitely wanted to cover this and
Well,
definitely,
it's big sporting history. So I mean, let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah. And this isn't just about hockey too, as we talked about. This is about Russia, Ukraine, bombings, movies, the final reckoning, Tom Cruise, the day the music died. I connected to a lot of things. So, but yeah, let's see if there's anyone else that's got something in here. Andrew Carpenter thinks that the Capitals will not hit the 48-19 tonight. I'm not going to ever say you're wrong. We'll see. Somebody's saying Heinz Ward, King of War. Is that what it translates to? I'm not sure if that's what you mean, but that's interesting. Well, first of all, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that Heinz Ward has the war in his name twice. His name is Heinz Edward Ward. And I think there's a reason they had him as the player running down the field during that bombing scene. And considering we're in the 86th, 86th of 9/11 just turned 86, Batman just turned 86. He wears the number 86. And I still believe that connects to the Golden Gate Bridge stuff going on, because remember, Pittsburgh was the city that supplied a lot of the steel for the Golden Gate Bridge, as I mentioned in that video too. Yep, Joseph mentioning the huge war number with 42. And Dirk Zink says, hockey is my favorite sport, so I really love this today. Yeah, I did too. I loved hockey. I don't know if my friend KC Golfing's still in here, but me and him always talking about hockey. Hockey was definitely my favorite sport. Death and rebirth all represented an opening of Genesis, stating 288 fragments had died, an allusion to the shattering of the vessels of the Tohu into 288 initial sparks. I have never heard about that. Derek, have you?
Negative.
I'm going to have to look into that. That might be something with that 288. And it kind of reminds me of Trump's dial number. It's like, you have one more 2 in there. You have the 8822. But yeah, guys, just watch for this game tonight. This is what I'm going to be watching. First thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to be checking my phone for the score of this game. Because even if it doesn't happen, I just want to see what does happen with it, because the next game they have, I guess, is on April 6th. Wait, is that against the Penguins too? Oh, no, that's the Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks are playing the Penguins now after this. Huh. And remember, guys, this movie, Sudden Death, is the bombing in the stadium takes place between those two teams. And then right after this game, you have the Blackhawks. They're playing back-to-back games against them. They sure are. Huh. Well, that's just more fuel to the fire there.
Yep.
Back-to-back games against the Penguins and Blackhawks right after the Capitals. Huh. And then they're playing the Jets again. So, But the Blackhawks, and this, you know why this will be crazy if they do win? Because the Blackhawks are a horrible team. They haven't won in, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. They haven't won since they played the Flyers. The last team they played was the Flyers. Huh? 7-4 too. How about that? 4-7. 47. Trump, government, White House, president. How many days ago was that? That was on the 23rd. So that was 12 days ago. I don't know. You see anything, Derek, that catches your eye, or did I already nail?
I mean, yeah, you mentioned most of the stuff I would. You got a back-to-back Pittsburgh Penguins, Chicago Blackhawks. You see the Jets on the Blackhawks schedule. That's one of the teams I was eyeing for the Capitals to play, but pretty sure they're done against the Jets.
See, the Washington Capitals still have an interesting schedule because the Islanders have a huge connection to the Gretzky thing. Remember that Gretzky scored his record goal against the Islanders, and they still have 2 games against the Islanders. And indeed, they do play on the date before that against the Islanders. So that's just crazy, man, because not only did Gretzky break the record against the Islanders, his last game was later on that year against the Penguins. So the last 2 games that the Capitals play literally tell the story of Gretzky's career, the record-breaking goal against the Islanders, and then the final game. Wait, I think Gretzky even scored his last goal against the Islanders. Yeah, he scored his last goal against the Islanders. Oh, I was wrong. He scored his record-breaking goal against the Canucks. His record-breaking goal was on the 23rd. That was the last game Chicago won before today, or before, the last game they won on the 23rd. So yeah, these riddles go deep, guys. It's so crazy how this all works out. But just the fact that the last 2 games of the season for Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record will be against the Islanders and Pittsburgh, and these are the 2 teams that define his last 2 games, his last goal and his last game. Perfect. So we shall see what happens, and don't forget, Trump had his speech in Capital One Arena after he won. So this does go back to all that. I did talk about that. Is that where the game is at tonight? Is that the game? Yeah, it's in Capital One Arena. So let me just see what that equals. I didn't even look into who's playing goalie tonight. I should probably look into that, like for the Blackhawks.
Yeah, the goalie seems to be like the quarterback, or the pitcher in baseball. Like that's where most of the
Well, look at that.
numerology will revolve around.
Look at the gematria here, Derek. Alex Ovechkin equals 90 in the same cipher as Capital One Arena, and the 63 you brought up with Gretzky.
Capital One on its own also has the 174.
Yeah. Is that game in Capital One?
No, the last game's in Pittsburgh.
So
they're on the road against the Islanders and the Penguins to close things out.
Well, that makes sense given the connection with the movie. That was also the bombing in Pittsburgh, so I guess that makes sense. But yeah, that 174, guys, we were talking about that date. So Capital One equals 174. Capital One Arena has the 90. So the 90 is just all over the place. You have the 90. What was the other 90? Oh, the Final Reckoning equals 90 also in that same cipher. And again, this is important because Ovechkin and Gretzky born 9,000 days apart exactly. Just pretty much the same. And that 135 is interesting because Capital One Arena, that's Kobe Bryant has that number. The Golden Gate Bridge has that number. Jimmy Carter, Aaron Rodgers, I think.
Yep. Bray Wyatt,
yeah. Well, I think that's all I have. Let me just check just one last time. Capital One Arena has that moon landing. Capital One Arena does have a 65 in keypad. Today is 65 days after the Blackhawk collision. Wow, Capital One has the 576 here, and Capital One Arena has the 576 there. So something with that. And has the 666.
There's something very Saturnian about Capital One as well. It seems like the logo has the rings of Saturn. And if you look at Kurt Russell's age for the game on the 17th, it's exactly 74 years and 1 month, and Saturn equals 741. I saw a couple people mention Saturn a lot in the chat, so it's probably relevant.
Yeah, I definitely think so. 741 is a huge Saturn number.
Yeah, it's the standard value of Saturn.
Yeah, and I also had done a lot of looking into. There's an order that's based the OTO. Is that what it's called? There's an order. Let me just bring up just real fast here while we're on this. I just don't remember what cipher it was in. It was in one of these larger ciphers. But not only does Saturn equal 741, maybe it's still not in my history. Sometimes I lose stuff in my history. Huh. There's an order. There's the OTO, I think, is what they're called. There's let me just type it. OTO. I don't know if it's this one. Maybe it's the full order of the. Maybe this is even the wrong one. I think I might even be looking. There was an order that's a Saturnian order that has a 741 in their gematria. but I don't want to look for it now. But there is an Order of Saturn. I don't know if this is the right one. No, this I was thinking the wrong one because this is the one connected to Crowley. But I'll talk about that later. But thank you for everyone sticking around and watching everything. And thank you to Derek again for being on here. And as always, thank you for your great tool. And
Yeah, of course.
yeah, and sorry about that, Mama Saria. I had that stupid bar up on the bottom if you couldn't see what I was doing. But somebody says, I know a lot about hockey. Did anyone see someone in Edmonton shat on the Wayne Gretzky statue on his big nose because he went to attend a Trump inauguration? When was this? Just recently, huh?
Yeah, that's been in the news lately with all the U.S. Canada stuff going on.
Huh.
Gretzky's kind of in the crosshairs of some of the Canucks up north.
I mean, how perfect that he's in the news right now with all that going on with Trump and now with this record passing thing, huh? Perfect timing.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much. We're gonna wrap this up. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way out. Make sure you guys go over to Derek's channel and check out his video from earlier. Make sure you guys check out all the other great decoders. Joseph Aquaviva, Visionary Vet has a channel. Widow's Son, who was in here before. Zenith of the Alpha was in here. I also saw 7-1 in here. 7-1 made an appearance. But yeah, Widow's Son, just trying to give shout outs to everyone. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the likes on the way out. And we will see you guys very soon for another video. Right, Derek?
Oh, we'll be back in the words of the famous Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yep. We'll be back.
See ya.
All right. God bless everyone.